The Israel-Palestine conflict is a very significant conflict, and it's a very important conflict in terms of understanding also the U.S. and the perception of the U.S. in the Middle East. And the reason for that being is that Israel is the #1 military aid recipient of the United States government. So it's certainly a conflict in which our government has decided to put a lot of support behind. And many, I think, who look at this conflict and are not familiar with it, it just seems like it's of biblical proportions, meaning it goes all the way back in time and no one can understand it anyways. They've been hating each other for so long. And I'm going to make an argument that this is more of a modern conflict. And while religion complicates things, I'm going to also make the argument that religion is not the main source of this problem. If you look at the picture down here and seeing two men pulling over land, and that's the discussion of land that I'm going to be talking about a lot. And no doubt the violence has gave both Israeli Jews and Palestinians much grievance. And you can watch a documentary and hear Jewish Israelis talk about terrorism and the pain and suffering that they have. And you can watch one from the Palestinian side also. And for many who actually study the conflict, there becomes a point when you really develop a strong opinion about whose story makes a better case for itself in terms of who you support. And many people are very passionately one-sided on this particular conflict. My goal is to present this conflict from the way that it is told by both sides, and to give as fair as a history as possible, and to make it clear that I myself, it's hard not to develop opinion on it, but what I'm hoping is that you're really exposed to all the historical details into the background, and that you can absorb those regardless of where you stand on the conflict itself. So, as I mentioned, the real topic is land. And in the Bible, it claims that Jews were given a particular set of land. It was called like the Promised Land. That's where you heard that term from. The Promised Land would be this area, okay? Ancient Israel. But even at this time, in Jesus' time, it was known more by its provinces like Samaria, Judea, Galilee, and we have Jerusalem down here. Okay, that's the Holy Land. It's holy to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. And in Arabic, it's called Al-Quds, the Holy Land. That's what it means in Arabic. But again, around the 1st century, the majority living in the area were Jews. Some were forced to convert to Judaism, like in the region of Idumedia. And King Herod was, in fact, and it mentions this in the New Testament, was forced to convert into Judaism. Or his descendants of his forefathers were forced to convert, should I say. And in this area, you would have had like Arabs as well and other groups. But what ends up happening is that Jews end up being revolting against Roman occupation, and it doesn't go well. And the Romans destroy their temple, and then later on they destroy another revolt, and the region ends up being named back to what was viewed by the Greeks, Palestine, Philistine in Arabic, and it ends up becoming a province of the Ottoman Empire when the Muslims eventually emerge into the world, right? When Islam comes into being, and essentially Palestine, it would be fought back and forth, the Holy Land, between the Crusaders and whatever. But by the 19th century and the early 20th, the land was a province of the Ottoman Empire that is ruled by the Turks, majority being Arab Muslims. Then the next large group, Arab Christians, and the small group of Jewish people. So if by 1914 there's only a small amount of Jews in this area, and the majority are Arab Muslim, how do we get to this conflict then? How do we even get to the fact that right now we have a country called Israel? And this is the important part that I'm now going to address in the next lecture.